Step right up. Come one, come all to this Monday, February 7th edition of the Engine Room Podcast, brought to you just for a change by tokenmetrics.com, your AI-enabled roadmap for making money in crypto. My name's Dylan Love. I'm part of the team here at Token Metrics, and I want to thank you for joining us, whether you're listening or watching, to this single-handed edition of the podcast. We're going to do what we do most of the time, work our way through some crypto news items, but do be sure to stick around until the end because I'm going to give you a little sneak peek at the Token Metrics platform, and we'll call out a little bit of what the AI is suggesting you buy this week. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, I thought we might try opening with a new segment. We're going to open a segment called Dylan Closes His Tabs. And so I'm just going to find, I've got a bunch of news stories open. We're going to go through this and we're going to read along and figure out this stuff, guys. But we're not going to start with crypto news exactly. We're going to instead start with a little bit of news about China and the Olympics. So the word is that no one is really watching the Olympics this season. And writing in The Hustle, an email newsletter called The Hustle that I like, the word is, why aren't people watching? Well, it's due for a few different reasons. Let's not forget that we just had the Summer Olympics 1 year ago as opposed to 2 years ago. So they're calling out Olympic fatigue as one reason. There's also a little bit an issue of what people are allowed to show during the Olympics. Limited footage. Media is not allowed to really be outside the Olympic Village area. So they don't get to do any like extended China culture pieces or things like that. And if you're paying attention to the politics news there, then it's probably, that should come as no surprise. And then there's also just the general political issue of China being on the front of the world stage right now because there's some pretty well documented evidence that they like to persecute a religious minority of Muslims that live in the region. So it's not the prettiest picture in the world, and one of the ways that this is manifesting is that fewer people are watching the Olympics this year than ever before. Not exactly a crypto news item, but worth mentioning as China has quite the anti-crypto stance, generally speaking. Let's move right along to the next tab. As I share this guy. Maybe you saw a news item a little while ago about how the IRS was going to start requiring facial recognition software on people. We're going to start using facial recognition software on people who were filing their taxes online. The service was called ID.me, and boy, did this news blow up. It blew up so badly that the IRS is now backing down from that. This news item today is that the IRS, as you file your taxes online, they are no longer going to use this kind of scary take a picture of your face software in order for you to file your taxes this year. It seems like they're definitely going to find a way to make sure you are who you are, but to whatever extent people have an issue having software take their picture so that they can be recognized later, that's not happening yet. The IRS has kowtowed to public backlash against this news item. All right, let's get into something a little more directly crypto-facing. Nike. Nike has some crypto news, and it's not the happiest news. Nike cries foul over virtual shoes, suing retailer that sells sneaker NFTs. This news coming to us from Blake Britton at Reuters. Sneaker giant Nike sued online reseller StockX in New York federal court on Thursday for selling unauthorized images of Nike shoes, marking the latest lawsuit over digital assets known as non-fungible tokens. Let's repackage that a little bit into some plain English. One of the main things people love about NFTs is that it certifies ownership. If you own a picture of a monkey, you can prove on the blockchain that you own that picture of a monkey. This gets a little bit dicey with intellectual property rights and intellectual property law, especially as it pertains to the design of Nike shoes. Nike might have a pretty strong case that it can own the image of its shoes. And by seeing people mint images of Nike shoes as an NFT, this can present some pretty interesting, murky undesirable legal cases, because now Nike is going after this small sneaker company that honestly I haven't heard of yet. I don't think this is an especially important or gigantic piece of news, but it does seem like a little tip of an iceberg that we could see in the future of companies going after, of big companies going after crypto companies who are doing crypto things without them. Tokenizing the images of Nike shoes, for example, well, it's already led to a lawsuit by Nike. So in the future, I could imagine people tokenizing artwork by a photographer. Well, if the photographer themselves didn't want that tokenized, then they might have a case to make. So no surprise there that that this technology, crypto and blockchain technology, really is going to stand to cause us to reshape a little bit of how we think about what's legally protected content, what is a legally protected idea. Moving right along. Next tab. It's about Facebook, although they want you to call them Meta now. So Facebook's stock price absolutely took a crap last week. So this is a slightly older news item, but it's still worth mentioning because we're at the beginning of a new trading week. I know some of this audience has its finger in legacy markets. I know I certainly do. But the bottom line is this: as Facebook stock took a dump, metaverse tokens caught the uplift. Personally speaking, I'm kind of happy to see this. It seems like a vote of confidence in this idea that Facebook's metaverse will not win. It might be a destination that we go to, but it's not going to be the primary thing that people go to for their metaverse experience. The simple truth of the matter is that decentralized metaverse platforms like Decentraland, like Sandbox, and so on, these give much more power to the user. If we've learned anything from observing Facebook as a company over the past 20 years and change, it's that it's a very centralized and powerful entity that's only going to do what it wants to do, whether or not the community around that product, and I would argue Facebook doesn't really have a community around its product. The entire connected internet is its community. And so if you're talking about everything with everybody, it's the same thing as talking to nobody about nothing. So it's difficult for me to think about a Facebook community really getting excited about a virtual reality product by Facebook, when the simple truth is you have smaller companies that are more nimble, that can iterate more rapidly, that they will attract their own, call it a grassroots community base. So my vote here is for the smaller guys to see what they can do to give Facebook a run for their money in this arena. And the markets are basically telling you that this is a good way to think. The money is saying that Facebook is on the way out and these smaller decentralized projects are on the way in. So long story short on this tab, as we close it, it was a great time to be holding metaverse tokens. Probably still is. I remember recalling a tweet that talked about metaverse tokens now being like buying Bitcoin at $200 many years ago. Let's move on to a story on Business Insider about a crypto CEO who successfully called this latest crash. And this story strikes me as a guy who's invested in protecting the status of crypto, going ahead to protect that status. So this person here, Brian Mossoff, the CEO of Ether Capital, he's on the record in December talking about January being a bad time to be holding any crypto. So we can at least he has that amount of credibility here. But looking into what he's talking about this time around, he's basically saying, yes, the market took a big old dump and prices are down much more than they were this time last month. But we need to remind ourselves that even though prices are down, the market is expanding. There's more money being pumped in despite what these prices are doing. Let's check out this quote here. The fundamentals of crypto have not changed, Mossoff said, and a lot of people are focused solely on the price of these assets. but forget to look beyond just the price, the communities and the building of the infrastructure that has taken place in the last couple of years. Yeah, I mean, communities and infrastructure. I'm immediately being reminded of what we were talking about with this idea of Facebook having some kind of community. Facebook's user base is too big to have a meaningful community. It's really going to be smaller crypto projects that take this stuff to the next level, I think. And with that's all the tabs that I had. Now, as promised, let's go ahead and log into the Token Metrics platform real quick, because whether you're a customer or not, I'm going to tip some goodies, and we're going to look at what the AI suggests you buy this week on KuCoin. We're going to look at KuCoin because that's the exchange that I use for most of my trading. If you're new to the Token Metrics platform, then you should know that you can look at this AI-generated index from a variety of different exchanges: Crypto.com, Kraken, Uniswap. But we're keeping it simple today. Let's just look at KuCoin here. So this is a breakdown. This is a model portfolio for this week. These weekly portfolios are generated every Monday morning. So we're giving you this just a few hours after it was generated. So do with it what you will if you're a KuCoin user. But you can see that we've got Kyber Network Crystals, Silo, Telos, Crypterium, and FTX, all in almost exactly proportional here. The AI wants you to buy a little bit more FTX and a little bit less Kyber Network Crystal, but everything else is approximately 20%. Why buy a little bit less Kyber and a little more FTX? Well, that's because the AI is saying that FTX is a little more solid and a little bit more of a sure bet, something closer to a blue chip play, whereas Kyber Network Crystal is going to have a little bit more risk associated with it. Let's now, I'm curious about this Crypterium here. So let's go ahead and see what we can learn about Crypterium on this page. With every crypto that appears in the weekly index, you have a fully formed page that's loading right now. Fully formed page that basically shows you how the Token Metrics AI looks at an individual cryptocurrency. So in this case, we're looking at Crypterium, which I'm only just now learning about. This ticker here is CRPT, currently trading just over 36 cents, and it's showing you that it's up today. Now let me show you what I look at when I look at this stuff. Of course, it always helps to look at this chart. Flat for a while, and then it looks like about 2 weeks ago, this thing caught a major gust of wind up. So let's look at this automated technical analysis. This is these visual indicators are pretty cool. Right here, I'm looking at bull and bear signals over the entire history. As far as the AI has tracked this particular crypto, it's basically given signals on when to buy low and when to sell high, and it's pretty good at it. You can see we have a bearish signal here right before we drip into these doldrums. And of course, the very last signal issued was a bull signal. So that's why Crypterium is popping up in this index. I also like to look at the grades. So in this summary section, if we scroll down after this loads, we've got a daily, weekly, and monthly grade. 85 daily, 85 weekly, 65 monthly. So if you're new to Token Metrics and you need a little explainer of what this is all about, this is basically saying that this Crypterium, is a great buy if you want to hold it for the short term, daily, or for the medium term, weekly. This 65 number for monthly means that it's slightly less desirable right now for a longer term bet. But if you wanted to trade this on a daily or weekly basis, these 85 numbers basically mean you're on the right track to do that. 65 is not a bad number, but we generally like to look for these things to be at 80 or above. So I think we've just got a little short news rehash and show you some of my favorite parts of the Token Metrics platform today. Guys, let's talk a little bit about how you can make sure that you see this podcast in the future, because we really enjoy producing it for you. If you like what we're doing here, go ahead and subscribe to this video in YouTube. Give us a like. This also goes out as an audio-only podcast. Just search Engine Room Crypto Podcast in your preferred podcast platform, and we'll be right there for you. If you want more live analysis, then you should know that we're doing a daily live stream every day at 1 p.m. Eastern. Our very own Bill Noble, our chart wizard, our GAN decipherer, is on call for an hour to basically give you his market update. And then, folks, he even will take like a DJ playing songs. He will do on-demand TA of whatever crypto you ask him for in the chat. So with that in mind, I want to thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Engine Room Podcast. We will be back Wednesday, and we're here 3 days a week, every week. So appreciate your attention. Stay with us, and we'll see you next time.